Well, it's not a proud day for this country. How could it be a proud day when a man who was not elected by the people becomes President of the United States? How does that happen? Michael Moore, the king of exposing hypocrisy, just went scorched earth on Donald Trump live on TV. I'm talking about a full-on, no-holds-barred roast session that left MAGA world shaken. Did Trump's spray tan melt under the heat? Did Moore finally break the unbreakable ego? And what did Trump do next? Cry, tweet, or launch a new scam? Oh, you need to see this. Buckle up because this takedown is brutal. Let's get into it. It's like they really believe that the average, normal American wants to hear that. They actually believe that we don't like immigrants. We are immigrants. We are all the children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren of immigrants, unless you are African American or among the first peoples that were here. We are all the product of immigrants, and we love our grandparents, great-grandparents, and the people who got us here to this great country. And to talk about immigrants in this vicious, vile way. Michael Moore just did what millions of Americans have dreamed of doing. He torched Donald Trump live on TV, in front of the whole world, with no mercy. And let's be honest, Trump getting called out on live television is basically a national pastime at this point. But this was next level. This was like watching a demolition crew take down a building that's already collapsing under its own weight, spectacular, inevitable, and just a little too easy. Trump's election is going to be the biggest one ever recorded in human history. And it will feel good, for a day, maybe a week, possibly a month. And then, like the Brits who wanted to send a message by voting to leave Europe, only to find out that if you vote to leave Europe, you actually have to leave Europe, they'll regret it. And let's face it, when Michael Moore starts talking, people listen. He's been predicting things before they happened for years, like some kind of political Nostradamus, but with a baseball cap and a passion for exposing corruption. So when he set his sights on Trump this time, you knew it was going to be good. And spoiler alert, it was. I don't think they realize it. I don't think they're really in touch with where the majority of Americans are. The majority of Americans do not want this divisiveness. They don't want the threat of violence. We are okay with disagreeing with each other, but that's where it ends. If you're enjoying this, please subscribe. Now, Trump has been called a lot of things. Business genius, by himself. Stable genius, also by himself. A man whose hair looks like it's trying to escape his head, by literally everyone else. But what he is not is someone who handles criticism well. No. Trump takes criticism the way a toddler takes being told no, he melts down. So when Moore went after him with facts, logic, and worst of all, humor, you could almost hear the rage tweeting begin. He's a good man. Yeah, he's a good man. He's done a good job. Moore laid out Trump's greatest hits of failure like a late-night infomercial. But wait, there's more. And boy, was there. From the endless legal battles to the disappearing act of his supposed billionaire empire, it was a buffet of bad decisions. And Trump, a man who loves buffets, except when they're full of subpoenas, was not ready for this one. Let's start with the biggest, most obvious train wreck, Trump's business empire, aka the financial equivalent of a reality show. Because nothing screams great businessmen like A collection of bankrupt casinos. A fraudulent university. A steak brand that somehow failed in America. Think about that. This man had the one thing Americans love more than freedom, red meat, and he still couldn't make it work. That's like opening a pizza place in New York and going out of business because people just weren't into it. I also think that Donald Trump is a big believer in capitalism and free enterprise, and the sort of thing that's driven us into the ground. This belief that you can just do whatever you want and it doesn't matter who gets hurt by it. I don't really see him changing. But I think he knows. He's been on TV, you know? He's a performance artist. He knows what to say, and he knows how to make this appeal. You think it's BS? I don't use that kind of language, but, yeah. And then there's his political career, one long, slow-motion car crash that somehow he manages to keep getting worse. You'd think that after losing an election, getting impeached not once but twice, and inciting one of the most chaotic and embarrassing incidents in modern American history at the Capitol, he'd take the hint and fade into political obscurity. But no, that would require a level of self-awareness that Donald J. Trump simply does not possess. Taking a hint is not his style. If anything, the more America tells him enough already, the more he seems to believe the country is secretly begging for his comeback. Trump taking a hint is like his most die-hard supporters sitting through an actual, factual, unbiased history class. It's just not happening. Because why deal with reality when you can rewrite history in real time? He knows how to manipulate a population that has been dumbed down, where schools have been weakened, and where media fails to provide the public with real facts. This makes it easy for someone like him to manipulate voters. Those who vote for him turn out in record numbers. He holds the largest rallies. He promotes a 21st century version of fascism, marrying the state and capital to benefit the few at the expense of the many, while blaming others in the process. Consider this: most politicians, when faced with scandal, legal troubles, and overwhelming public rejection, take the opportunity to bow out, write a self-serving memoir, and cash in on speaking gigs. But Trump? No way. Instead of gracefully exiting stage right, he doubles down, insisting he's the victim of a massive conspiracy cooked up by everyone, from the radical left to the deep state, and maybe even, given enough time, the ghost of Abraham Lincoln. Speaking of conspiracy theories, Trump has turned them into an art form. His entire political brand is built on grievance, alternative facts, and the belief that reality is negotiable. Lost an election? Blame fraud. Got impeached? Call it a witch hunt. Indicted? Frame it as political persecution. In Trump's world, losing is never his fault. It's always someone else rigging the system against him. His post-presidency behavior proves that he simply refuses to accept the one thing he hates most: irrelevance. And let's not forget his legal troubles, which are stacking up faster than his unpaid contractors. With multiple criminal indictments, civil lawsuits, and ongoing investigations, he's facing more courtroom appearances than campaign stops. But does that stop him? Of course not. He wears his legal woes like a badge of honor, spinning them into yet another excuse to cry victim and fuel his supporters' outrage. Meanwhile, he seems more engaged with tweeting about Alec Baldwin on Saturday Night Live, sometimes hours after the show has ended, than engaging with national security briefings. He once took only 3 security briefings in his first month, yet had time to tweet about television at 6 a.m. Yet, despite it all, he still has a shockingly strong grip on a portion of the country. No matter how many scandals pile up, how many fact-checkers debunk his claims, or how many times he makes a mockery of democracy, there's still a crowd hanging on to his every word. It's like a reality show that never ends, except the stakes are real, and the consequences are terrifying. And then, there's the legal mess, oh, the never-ending legal mess. At this point, Trump's lawsuits should have their own reality show, Law and Disorder, The Trump Chronicles. His legal troubles are piling up, yet he continues acting as if the whole thing is some elaborate deep state conspiracy. Because, of course, the justice system, which has let Wall Street fraudsters and war criminals walk free, has supposedly decided that the real threat is him. And let's talk about those lawsuits, civil suits, criminal indictments, fraud cases, you name it, he's got it. His legal team probably has a group chat labeled Code Red, always. Meanwhile, Trump keeps ranting that the courts are rigged, as if judges are randomly picking names out of a hat and his keeps coming up. No, that's called consequences. You don't get to spend decades bending the rules, stiffing contractors, and playing fast and loose with campaign funds without it catching up to you eventually. Even Monopoly makes you go to jail sometimes. There's his obsession with winning. Oh, Trump loves to talk about winning. But let's be real, his definition of winning is like his definition of being tall, just because he says it doesn't make it true. This is a guy who lost the popular vote twice, declared bankruptcy 6 times, and somehow made golfing look exhausting. He's like a reverse Midas, everything he touches turns into a lawsuit. Repeat after me, Donald Trump outsmarted us all. And then there's that little moment where everyone feels like throwing up in their mouths. His biggest win in recent years? Convincing people to spend hundreds of dollars on tacky gold sneakers with his name on them. Because nothing says man of the people like scamming your own supporters with overpriced, gaudy footwear that looks like a mix of Liberace and QVC. Seriously, these shoes look like they were designed by someone who thinks Vegas is a personality trait. But hey, at least they'll go well with those Trump-branded steaks, the defunct airline, and whatever is left of Trump University. And then there's the grift, the never-ending grift. If Trump could monetize failure, he'd be the richest man on earth. Everything he touches turns into an overpriced, low-quality product, yet his most devoted fans keep throwing money at him. He's basically the ShamWow guy of politics, except instead of cleaning up messes, he just creates new ones and then asks his supporters to pay for the mop. Michael Moore laid all of this out with the precision of a surgeon, if that surgeon was also a comedian who loves exposing frauds. He didn't just go after Trump's policies, or lack thereof. He didn't just call out the scandals, the failures, the endless parade of embarrassments. He went after the brand of Trump, the myth, the illusion, the entire phony empire of spray tan, cheap hats, and overpriced NFTs. Friends, if something happens, if Donald Trump is in the presidency, he's going to react in a way that involves taking away people's rights, cracking down in an authoritarian manner, just the way he likes to think about power. And when that happens, nobody will even be able to discuss it. Then where were you in the 2.5 months leading up to taking office? You didn't even bother to attend the most important job preparation. And can I just say this to him? I've got to believe he's watching. You know, when someone says his name, the TV turns on. I tweeted about Trump, and oh, he hated it. Because here's the thing, Trump doesn't actually care if people disagree with him. What really gets under his skin is when people laugh at him. And Michael Moore didn't just criticize him, he didn't just expose him, he turned him into the one thing he never wants to be, the punchline. So of course, the meltdown began. The all-caps rants. The desperate attempts to spin it as fake news. The classic "I barely know who Michael Moore is" routine. Because, you know, when Trump pretends not to know someone, it definitely means they're irrelevant, and not that they just torched his entire existence on national television. But it's not just Moore. Trump's entire act is wearing thin. Once loyal supporters are starting to realize that maybe, just maybe, the guy who ran his businesses into the ground, got impeached twice, and now spends his days ranting about deep state conspiracies isn't the political mastermind he pretended to be. Who could have seen that coming? Oh, right, Michael Moore did. At the end of the day, Trump is just a man desperately trying to hold on to a fantasy version of himself that never really existed. He wants to be seen as a genius, a winner, a titan of industry. But Moore just reminded everyone what he really is, a guy who couldn't even keep a casino afloat, failed to sell steaks, and now spends his days scamming his own followers with laughably bad merch. If you live here in Ohio, you know what I'm talking about. Whether Trump means it or not is kind of irrelevant, because he's saying things to people.